All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Sunday watch list. I think this is going to be a very important week to determine direction. There is a couple hints that I am getting, um, but it's still maybe a little bit of patience to get a little bit more confirmation towards like the middle of the week of where we're actually headed towards. But to get started, we do not have any major economic data this week other than Thursday, I believe. Thursday we have initial jobless claims and PMI. Monday through Wednesday, nothing really crazy. As far as earnings goes, I think this week Tesla reports either Wednesday or Thursday, one of those 2 days. And then next week is going to be a major week where all the top companies report, right? Quarterly. It's the start of the fourth quarter. Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, um, Google, Apple, they're all going to report earnings next week. Netflix already reported they did really well. They already made a big move. So as far as going into the charts, let's get right into it, right? Let's clear the chart. I'm gonna start off with QQ this time. Usually I start off with SPY, but let's do Qs. So Qs is on this little uptrend here. First things first, on the daily chart, we had this bearish engulfing candle here, and it's also like an evening star candle. If you guys don't know what an evening star candle is, looks like this. All right, think of it as just the upside down view, right? So we had that candle here. 1, 2, 3. And we are still basically below the top of that candle. So the top of that candlestick pattern is going to be a very key level to watch. It's also the top of this recent range. And the bottom of that candle is going to be a very key level to watch. We are basically forming inside bars. 1, 2, 3. 3 candles inside of this previous larger candle. Very similar to the example from here. Look, we had a bearish engulfing, and we had 3 inside bars. 1, 2, 3. 3 inside bars inside of that bigger candle. And then what happens? We get to move down. So there's 2 ways to trade these inside bars. This is either going to get a break out of the top or the bottom of this inside bar. And it's just a matter of patience. But since it is an evening star and a bearish engulfing, I'm leaning more towards the downside. But the way that this weekly candle closed, it is a little bit strong, right? Same thing with SPY. It closed a little bit strong. And going into back to the 4 hour, I also see like a rising wedge. We had like this bearish divergence when the stock makes a higher high, but the RSI makes a lower high. So there is a bearish divergence on this chart, and it's almost like a rising wedge to a point. As far as room to the upside, like if it breaks the top of that range, like 498.8, it has room to 500 here, which is another big key psychological area. So I think from a risk reward standpoint, the rejections around here I like a little bit more. But another opportunity is if it does break above and retest, then it is going to have room to the all-time high at 505 on QQ. So either one of those scenarios is very possible, and I will be waiting for either scenario to play out. One of those two is going to play out. I think from a risk reward standpoint, the rejection would be great because it would give us room back down to 488. 49. And if 49 breaks, that's where it could get that move down to 46, 45. And then the next major zone isn't until like right here. It isn't until like right here. Okay, so like the 480, 478 area on Qs. Those are gonna be the main points that I'm watching. This was also our previous higher low that held. So from a trend analysis point, we are still on an uptrend until this level breaks below. So if you want to be very patient, wait for this 489 to break below, retest. That will open up room to 485 and 480. So that's the game plan with SPY going into, sorry, for QQ going into SPY. Very similar, right? We have a lows, higher highs. These higher highs turn to higher lows, higher highs turn into a higher low, higher high, keep forming higher highs and higher lows. This chart looks a little bit more bullish than QQQ because this is an ascending triangle. If you guys don't know what an ascending triangle is, it looks like this. And it is basically where we are forming higher lows into that flat top that keeps getting rejected. It's a higher low, it's a higher low, it's a higher low. This is a bullish chart pattern, but it can also break to the downside. I've seen it multiple times. So this all-time high on SPY is going to be major. What is going to happen here at 45? If it breaks that flat top, it has room to 46.34, which can also, be respected as a rejection point since it did last time. But really, if I am going to be looking for upside on SPY, it has to break and retest these areas. And then we don't know where it's headed towards, probably psychological 590. So that could definitely be a scenario. It looks bullish on the weekly, strong weekly candle. Going into the daily, it's like a bullish harami, but a bullish harami works best at support, and it's currently at resistance. So what I've treated as a bullish harami as much, probably not as much. But yeah, very similar example. I will be watching for downside. I will be watching potentially like this. Let's fix these trend lines here. I'd be watching this trend line and this recent, like 582 will get us to 580. Below 580, that's where the sell-off will really get started. Below 580, it really pushes to 577 and like 575. So it's as simple as that. From a risk reward standpoint, um, trading it to the upside, we don't know how much room it has. So I would prefer a scenario to the downside, but it's not about what I prefer, right? The market's gonna do what it wants to do. So I'm gonna be ready for both directions. I would just feel a little bit more comfortable trading it to the downside because of how much more room it would have if it were to drop. So that's gonna be SPY. It's gonna be Qs. Individual names. Apple is at a level of supply here, which is this 237 all-time high. This is the all-time high on Apple. Recent supply was this major zone here at 233, 232. We have officially broken and held above that 233, 232, pushed to all-time highs, and we got a reject off that all-time high on Friday. What is going to happen here on Apple is going to be a big indication as to what's going to like how the market's going to move overall. If Apple keeps pushing higher and show strength, it's probably going to bring up SPY and Qs. If Apple does reject and fall back below 232, that would be a nice breaking retest for room back into 230 and like 227, 228. That'd be a great move down if that were to happen. All right, break below this trend line. But as far as right now, it is holding an uptrend. So you kind of want to follow the trend until proven otherwise. Above 237, it's probably going to push into the 240s if Apple continues to show the type of strength it's been showing. Another big name to watch this week is going to be NVIDIA, showing a lot of strength as well. This weekly candle looked very, very strong. It's like a weekly bullish hammer, but it is at a key level of resistance, which is the all-time high. What is going to happen here at this all-time high on NVIDIA is also going to be a big indication as to what can present itself in the market this following week, whether NVIDIA rejects its all-time high again, or if it breaks and retests, it'll, probably give us room to 145. But if NVIDIA does reject this all-time high and starts getting below 135 in this trend line, that opens up room to 130, 131, which would be a great scenario. But as of right now, higher time frames do look a little bit more bullish, and it's something to just, be a little bit patient for. So no bias just yet. AMD looks a little bit more bearish below the supply, and Meta's going to be one of my top watches. Reasoning why is because we had broken out of this uptrend, rejected a key level at 600, and broke back below a key level of demand, which was our most recent higher low. So notice how it's resistance here, and then we break above it, and it holds as support here. It holds as support here, back to 600, 600 rejects, tries holding as support here, and then this is a trade that I've already taken twice last week. So I took the break and retest the day of, which was Wednesday, and I took another reject off that 583 on Friday. So this 583 area is being respected as a level of supply. There's two scenarios here. It can keep rejecting that point, or it can reclaim and start pushing back to 600 if the market shows strength. But since this is a high and then a lower high, and then this recent low, this 574 is a recent lower low, we would need to take out 574 for this to get down into 570, which is about a $4 move, which is pretty good. So I like Meta below 574, room to 570. If spine cues show weakness, this will be a good name to short. Tesla, like I said, has earnings on Wednesday. I see it, it's kind of bear flagging right now. And on the daily, it's just ranging. Look, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, Tesla has been ranging from 213 to 224, right? If it gets above this 224, really, I feel like it can still consolidate until after earnings. Probably earnings will give us that move. Above 224 will give you the 232. Below 213, 210, and 205 is on the table. So no bias. Is just I have to wait for this to give me more direction. Going into Google, Google also looks a little bit bearish. So out of some of these names, Google, Meta, and AMD look bearish. Apple and Nvidia look bullish. So those would be the names, depending on what SPY and Qs do. If SPY and Qs show weakness, I'm going to be looking at Meta. If SPY and Qs show strength, I'll be looking at Apple and Nvidia. That's just how in relative strength and relative weakness goes. And I think this is as simple as I really need to keep my watches. I don't need to have like 10 different names on watch. Um, that's my overview on the market. That's what I'm be watching for Apple. That's what I'm going to be watching for Nvidia and SPY and Qs. Those are my levels. Like I said, a little bit more patience this week. And wait for a couple more, maybe some daily candles to close to give me a little bit more hints of if we are going to push higher or not. But 500, 488, two easy key levels to watch on Qs. Just a quick recap. SPY, recent highs at 585, recent lows at 580. Those are some key points to watch and waiting for reactions in those points. Other than that, guys, I think it's going to be a pretty short, simple Sunday watch list. I hope you guys gain some value off this. And yeah, thank you guys for watching and hope you guys have a great trading week. Peace.